Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Nigeria Now, where we discuss happenings in the country. Quite a number of events have happened and are still happening presently as we talk to you. But we'd love to discuss a few of the things that are currently trending presently in the country. So please do well to join us. Drop your comment, drop your views. They are always welcome on the show, as this will help the country to be better and also giving certain recommendation. I am Sela Laishidashom. I'm doing this program alongside Rachel Thames. Good afternoon,
Afternoon,
Rachel.
Selen.
All right, before we get into what we would love to discuss, just to bring to your notice, concerning the October 1st hashtag End Bad Governance, we're seeing that the organizers of the protests are saying that they will be meeting with the police, having a meeting through virtually. So these are part of the things we're seeing, as well as we're seeing that ASU is giving the federal government ultimatum of another 14 days or else they'll be going on strike. And then as well, we're looking at concerning flooding, where we're seeing that some hectares of talking about kilometers actually of convent as well as drainage were swept away by the flood in Oyo State. So quite a number of things are happening. So you could do well to dive into the stories and know more detail of what is happening regarding this. Now, we'd love to go into the matters we would love to discuss today, and we would love to start with the issue of unemployment in Nigeria, where we're seeing that the unemployment rate has actually increased to about 5.3%. This is a report coming from the NBS, where we are looking at this happened towards the third to the last quarter of 2023 up to the first quarter of this year. So hopefully by the end of this year we should know what our new unemployment rate is. But it's quite alarming, as well as we're really worried what is happening looking at the workforce as well as non-workforce. So I know we discussed this, but not tagging it on employment. You clearly remember when we were discussing when our multinationals were leaving the country.
Yeah.
This was what we saw. We made mention of about over 4,000 small enterprises, businesses
Yes.
that have actually closed down as a result of multinationals, and then the economy biting hard, and then we're seeing that a number of people are beginning to close down. Now we're seeing that that is what is happening presently regarding the issue of unemployment, and that is the report that came in looking at the fact that we're even having more females than male. And of course, we know we're in a male dominated country, whereby we see that most of the jobs that are out there are mostly available for the male gender than the female gender, because we know that there are certain work that the male can do that the females cannot do, rather. But then it's quite worrisome looking at our statistics. I was looking at what was our position in Africa concerning unemployment. Of course, if you look at it, we are not among the first five. But nevertheless, when we look at other countries, such as South Africa, that is having a very high unemployment rate, yet being among world powers, and then here we're having Nigeria not having up to the number of unemployment, yet we are nowhere close to contributing when it comes to nation building or even internationally. So you just cannot help but ask the question, what is our government doing concerning this number that has actually increased? Initially it was about 5.0%, and then now we're having it at 5.3%. So where we're having over 4 million Nigerians actually unemployed. So you could actually tell that this will impact when we are talking about the issue of increase in crime, when we're talking about quite a number of things, vices that are happening. We can actually attribute it to the fact that an idle man is devil's workshop. So definitely, but then looking at it on a wider scope, looking at our unemployment, you just can't help but wonder what really is the government doing, and how can we improve this. We saw where the I think was it the Buhari regime said there's no work for everybody. So everybody now has to start thinking hard, what can I do to contribute to nation building as well as to take care of myself. But it's really, really troublesome. I was reading, and then I saw that even our non-academic staffs, as well as even our senior um, staffs of the university, are among those people who are complaining. In fact, we're saying that, talking about if they can get loan from their cooperative, they are fighting for the 35,000 naira. So you can actually tell that if people who are even employed are complaining about the hardship, how about those who have no means whatsoever of livelihood? So you could really, really look into this, and then you can't help but wonder what is the way forward from now.
Tell as much as it's a good thing that we have these kinds of statistics coming and then telling us who are the unemployed.
Mm.
Uh, I'm a little bit concerned about the 5.3% of the country only being unemployed. And when we talk about 5.3%, just as you call the numbers, we're looking at about 4 million or thereabout
Mm.
Nigerians out of a population which we are not certain yet, but we know that is over 200 million. So are we looking at only 4
Excuse
million
me.
people out of over 200 million people being unemployed? And then the question is, then where do we get our poverty number? Because we're looking at a number of people living in poverty,
Mm.
over 50 million, over 100 million. I know it includes, right, households and all of that. And then the fault I'm finding in these statistics is that if we only have 4 people unemployed, then we are trying to remove the margin of underemployed from this. And whether
Mm.
we like it or not, for us to be able to pinpoint why are we where we are in concerning economic growth, our growth per capita, our GDP per
Mm.
capita is very low. We do not even have those statistics for sure. And even when you put it and you spread it across Nigeria, per head, is everybody earning that according to certain figure and numbers and all of that? So I believe that we have more numbers than these unemployed. It's we can also attribute this factor to the fact that we are yet to have our census. So we don't even know exactly the numbers of Nigerians. Therefore, we do not know for sure who truly is underemployed. If we have, for example, we know for sure, Sele, that we are 280, for instance, in this country, 280 million people in this country, and we can say for sure that we have 80 people, for example, that are dependent, that are not employed. And we have numbers to say, okay, we have now 10 million people that are retired. We have, because we are now working with figures that are substantial, because there's a census that's been carried out. We know our population, and the census doesn't only reveal the population, but it also gives us the demograph of people, and then we are able to categorize them.
Mm.
Until then, I think 5.3%, with the level of our poverty in this country, so little of a number of what we're seeing, and a report concerning unemployment doesn't go without underemployment, because can we truly classify those who are earning below minimum wage, averagely below minimum wage? There are people who are just out there going out every day. They are not employed. They go out to get jobs every day, and they go weeks without having any job. They go days without having any job. And until these contract jobs, until these gigs come left, right, center, before they are able to make some money at the end of the
Mm.
day.
Mm.
These
Mm.
are all numbers that we really need to have, because 5.3% feels like just a little
Mm.
percentage
True.
of who truly is unemployed in the country. I would love more figures, because we can sit now and say, well, 5.3% is not that bad. But when you look around and you want to do the maths yourself, you just realize that, I don't need to round Nigeria for me to know that to some extent I can fault these figures. It's coming from the National Bureau of Statistics, and we have relied on them on a lot of
Mm.
information. But at the same point, we can also question them. What are the key indicators you have used to be able? What population census
Mm.
are you
Did you
using to
use?
do this?
Mm.
And how have you followed it? Did you go to schools? Did you go to states? Did you go to the registry for every state? Did you go to that for the federal government? Did you go to the operational private sector and all of that? Who are fully employed? Until we have all of that in this country,
Mm.
I will say that the figure is more than that. However, it's an increase. So it means that something needs to be done. Even if it's not accurate, it shows that perhaps we were once 3 million unemployed and now we are 4 million. If we're 4 million, now we are 5 million. So there is an increase. And either way, when we saw some multinationals going, we saw on our papers the news concerning how we are seeing thousands of people risking becoming unemployed due to these companies leaving and we have more small medium enterprises closing down also. These are people who are self-employed and have been able to employ other people. I just want an in-depth information precisely, but I think until we have our sensors before we can get that, until then I think 5.3% is little compared to our poverty level in the country and all of that.
And that was why I was wondering. I said, if we're going to look at other countries that are world powers, and then you see their number higher, so how do we come about having this?
Yes.
And then it looks like we didn't really get the figure out. But just like you say, nevertheless, whether it's 5.3 or it's even 1.2, however low it is, I think this is where we need to look in depthly. What is the government doing regarding this? Of course, we know a number of graduates. I mean, every year we know the number of graduates we have
Yes.
right now, and then we have every set we have NYC core members coming out. But then the concern most time is just like you rightly say, we have those who are underemployed. In fact, I think yesterday was when we saw one of the papers, The Guardian, trying to look at certain unemployed, underemployed, and then certain people. This today again we saw the same thing, looking at those who are retired, those who are not working, and then you could just cannot help but wonder what really is happening concerning being jobless. The economy is biting harder every day. Even the rich are complaining. So not to talk about someone who cannot even make an ends meet. And I think this is where the government needs to come in. We see people taking advantage of this unemployment, telling people to pay certain money, especially when it comes to certain recruitment. We've seen that in the aviation sector. We've seen that in immigration. We've seen that in, especially anything that has to do with these uniform jobs. We see people, using that more like buying job. I think we had a case, was it last year or early this year?
Yes, job
Concerning
racketeering.
exactly.
The
So you could
Federal
really
Character
tell.
Commission.
Very
Yes.
true. So you could actually tell that all of these things is telling on almost every other
is,
sector. So we hope something is being done. We hope that we'll have our sensors. I don't know how soon we can have it, but we look forward to having it so that that will give us an accurate number, and then we'll be able to see how all of these organizations come up with certain figures that they give us. Now, away from business a bit, let's take a look at what's happening concerning security. Now we're seeing that our army chief was talking about the fact that the army are not performing, or rather security personnel are not performing as they should perform because of adequate manpower, adequate funding, and a number of things. Just yesterday, you and I were discussing where Nigeria was asking to be given a permanent seat at the UN Council concerning the fact that we are contributing, specifically in Africa, mentioning various African countries that we have been represented when it comes to peacekeeping. And then when you take a look at how much budget our security get yearly, I mean, very soon we'll be hoping to hear what the 2025 budget will be, and then we'll love to see how much is being allocated to security. But I clearly remember you stating the fact that no matter how much is being put into security, we can never say that there's too much money, because there's so much of work to be done. Now we're seeing the army complaining the number of security personnel, I think 2 million, and then working according to just the, I mean, just like we said, everything now boils down to our census. If we're talking about over 200 million Nigerians, and that we're having just 2 million personnel, security personnel, then you really tell that they are really, really lacking manpower when it comes to covering all of the spaces. I remember you and I saying the fact that if we're going to look at the issue of Boko Haram and other vices, we could really tell that they cannot outnumber the number of security men we have, but yet we're saying the army cannot record the success they want to record. Why? Because they do not have all that they need to have to be able to record all of these things. And therefore, this is a call to the government. What are we doing to make sure that our security personnel have the needed welfare that they need, the needed backing that they need, and every other thing that will help them to be able to perform? Then with that, we can see that, because according to Lagbaja, he was stating the fact that, what, Nigerians have no idea about security. And so it's very easy for Nigerians to, tend to point blame fingers on them, saying the fact that they are not doing what they are supposed to do. But people do not have an idea what is really happening inside, and how much they are struggling to make sure that they're able to cover a vast number of places, make sure that they protect people and all of that. And I remember you and I stating the fact that, this is where we need more security men to be recruited. But then the more they're being recruited, they don't have enough to cover them, especially when we come to funding. Let's look at some of their weapons. nothing compared to what these Boko
Yeah.
Haram people are using and all of that. So it's really a point of concern, because when you're talking about security, it's a very, very sensitive topic. And I believe that the government should take this seriously. We're saying that finally the army are owning up to the fact that, you know what, we need help when it comes to funding as well as other things. Then I think it's high time the government look into what can they do to make sure we have adequate number of people. I mean, I know we can't have up to one person per security agent, but then, I mean, to some level, we'll be able to have them covering certain places, and then they'll be able to record more success than they're recording presently.
So like if we're to reason with the armed forces and then our CDS precisely giving two reasons to the lack of performance or incompetency, two which is manpower and then funding. We can reason with lack of funding, but we can't reason with manpower. For a country where we have our president going to the G Summit conference and win investors with manpower, then manpower cannot be the reason we do not have anything functioning in this school, in this country. Manpower, Sele, means your population. You have enough hands on deck. Recently, we stumbled upon the information concerning how many police personnel we have in the entire country. So that we have 400,000 police personnel. That is poor. And we stumbled upon that information because the IGP came out to say that, you know what, out of the 400,000 personnel we have in the country, there are about 30,000 that are for VIP to even undisclosed or unknown and persons and all of that. Why does the police force have 40,000 police and personnel at VIP bodyguards and all of that, when people are needing them on the street? That already is a problem, that we are collecting money and diverting the little manpower we have to where it is not needed because someone is paying to be protected for their crimes, failing to make the whole entire Nigeria safe, but rather have 58 to one senator. I hope that's not the number, though I am just assuming, but having lots of aides while the people who are truly endangered out there are lacking the presence of police in community. We do not have a response unit. We do not have emergency. Why would a country of 200 million people have only 400,000 police personnel? That's already low. What is stopping the federal government from recruiting more? So like 1 million is too small for 200 million people.
Nigerians.
Why is the government not recruiting? And we can't say they do not have the money for recruitment because you just bought a private jet. We see a lot of fundings, a lot of aids coming in, none to be accounted for. We have seen recently that even the humanitarian ministry must be scrapped, it's on suspension, nothing, all the welfare, all the palliatives, all the things that could have helped Nigerians through this period of so much economic hardship, nothing is being done. Let me not deviate, Sele, but why is the government not recruiting more? But you can go for a G Summit, G20 Summit, and tell the world to come and invest. And by investors, you're meaning let industrialists come because you have enough youth, you have enough manpower in your country. But for some reason, it's a bragging right out there, but you are not using it to do the needful in your country. We have only 230,000 military armed forces out there. That is too small. In as much as we can say, well, the military is not civilian, so they don't have to be as much as the police. The police should be more because they are the one to respond to emergency and all of that. But even at that 230 is too small for our military forces and so many levels, because when you look at it, then you can't help but wonder how many have gone, how many want to go to the war front concerning what is happening with terrorism and Boko Haram and all of that. And you just wonder, manpower cannot be the reason you underperform as far as I'm concerned in a country like Nigeria. We are not European countries that of course have the issue of manpower and have to find ways to cajole, to to entice youths to be a part of their military or any security agency. We are not. We are in Nigeria, and people year in year out are out there trying to even be recruits for police, trying to be recruit for the military, but it has been hijacked. You talked about racketeering. You have to pay to get it, and you need more personnel. You are not. Why is the federal government limiting the funding to security when you know that they are shorthand at every level? These are questions we need to, because it looks like that the federal government is not paying the much needed attention when it comes to security in this country. Imagine if you cannot even try with keeping communities safe. How can you keep borders safe from terrorism and all of that? How could you keep regions that have already been affected with terrorist attacks safe if you cannot keep civilians and petty crime low and all of that? So I just hope that the government wakes up, and you can't use manpower. We'll never accept manpower. Yes, manpower as the reason for our and for the armed forces not functioning, because we do have the manpower in Nigeria. We are not lacking manpower. We are not about to lack that. We can talk about funding. Yes, there is a need for funding, and that is the reason why it is suffering, because the government is not ready to put in more funds for the much needed manpower to be employed to work. And these topics link together, Seller, concerning our unemployment, and then now we are having our CDS talking about and manpower. If the imagine, Seller, if the police force, for example, can come out and recruit 600,000 more
True.
people to for us to have 1 million police personnel in this country. We have 600,000 graduates as police. Crime will reduce. It might not be a dangerous job as it is anymore, because there'll be more personnel out there being able to put an eye in the community, and then crime will go down. What about military? If you are saying the manpower is a problem, why are you not recruiting? And you talked about our weapons grade, Seller. It is very low. It's almost like we're using gears that were from World War II or something like that. But we're very backward even in that level. So it's one thing to even want people to go to be a part of it, and then to take themselves to the war front on not fully kitted or with the right grade of weapons and uniforms and all of that. It's so much, and we will never stop calling on the government to do the needful, because when you look at it, it can be upsetting, because you're a Nigerian and you're saying that, you know what, manpower can never be a problem. Other things could be, and we will reason with that, but not manpower. There's enough hand for security personnel to be able to take care of this country.
You know, you really raised a very valid point, whereby we're saying, of course, if we're going to have our leaders going out there to brag about our population, so why then do we have shorthand when it comes to having more people? And we've heard, I mean, I think yearly we have about 3 or 4 times recruitment of our army and our police, and then we know that sometimes it's even very difficult, because you need to even bribe your way
Yes.
there. You must know somebody that knows somebody that knows someone up there
Yes.
to be able to link you. And you can tell that, I mean, despite the fact that it's not as enticing as other nations, but we have youths that are trying. People buy forms, trying their best just to get there. And then we know that, I mean, it's either you must have somebody from your constituency that knows somebody there that will
Yes.
help you, and then if you don't know anybody, we know of someone close or a friend of a friend that actually tried and didn't get it. So
Sure.
we could actually relate to that. You could tell that when it comes to manpower, just like you said, we have all that is needed. But I believe that the problem here is the fact that we have leaders that have not prioritized the security of its people. Because if you prioritize it, you'll be ready to release enough funds. You'll be ready to make sure that everybody gets there. We keep making comparison with other developed countries. You can really tell that their population is nothing close to ours. Yet you see the number of people that are being recruited to make sure that they keep, sanity entirely in the entire country. So why are we not having the same thing in this country? And I think this would be another reason we'll tell our leaders, if you want to be given that permanency, then you should start something from home. And that's why I said charity begins from home. And just like you said, these two topics we have looked at actually intertwine, whether we like it or not. We want to reduce the number of unemployment. Let's have more people, in the security agents. Let's have more people working there. And I believe this is coming because we remember when we had our general, asking the the chief of the army staff telling him the fact that no excuse whatsoever concerning crime thriving.
Yes.
Well, I think this is a response to that. Of course, we have no excuse, but we need the government to do what they need to do
Of
so that we'll
course.
be able to do. I mean, when your brother or your sister say they're in the Nigerian army, you know that they are well taken care of because they'll be ready to give their best. And even when they die, they know that they die at the point of duty doing the right thing because they are well taken care of. So we hope to see our government doing the right thing. I think we've heard several times the IGP saying they will withdraw the VIPs, but till date we're still having people
We are
having
still having,
private
yes.
aids. I mean, you wonder what is happening when you and I are walking on the street feeding. Why are you having more people, on you? So we'll just hope that the government will pay attention to this concern being raised by the army chief as well as other people that are raising concern concerning let's have more security agents out there because there is a need for them. Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for doing this program
You're
with
welcome,
me.
Celine.
As well, thank you to our viewers and every other person who made the program a success. We look forward to doing this again tomorrow. So do have a wonderful day ahead.